Now, moving on to the first slide of the day. Just wanted to give you guys a little bit of context and understanding of who we are at Narrators, first of all, for you to better understand why we are presenting this to you today, where we stand in the ecosystem. A lot of the things we're sharing today are insights that we've gathered through our work with a lot of the agencies and brands that we work with. So just to give you a quick at a glance look at Narrators, we're an agency and a platform. We help a variety of brands in all kinds of verticals run effective influencer marketing campaigns with a very streamlined and productive workflow. All right. We have a hybrid model where we invite our brands onto the platform, of which you can see a screenshot here, to manage campaigns alongside us. And we have a mobile app for the creators and our vast community of creators across 10 markets, which, as you can see, is 1.3 million in terms of our database, manage campaigns on their mobile app, right? This includes viewing briefs, submitting contents, chatting with us, and being paid through third-party digital wallets to really gain a lot of efficiencies and make working with us a breeze, right? We're a full managed service at Narrators. Okay, we have dedicated account managers which support the execution of any campaign that we carry out, and local community managers to manage the relationships of the creators on your behalf. So we're really a full managed service supported by the platform, okay? This model is really what allows us to provide scale and efficiencies, which I'm going to touch on quite a little bit today, as this may be some of the pain points that you're experiencing as I see the majority of you are executing and managing your influencer campaigns internally, right? We're headquartered in Singapore since 2015, but we operate in 10 markets in Southeast Asia, which I will touch on a little bit as well later on. That's us in a nutshell. Little introduction to the Narrators app as well. This is the mobile app I just spoke about. This is where our community of creators can take part in various campaigns, chat with us, submit their content. If any of you here are a creator, which often happens, I invite you to download the app and check it out. You'll definitely find a lot of fun and exciting things to take part in the variety of markets where we are present. We are in 10 markets, headquartered in Singapore. These are the markets, just so you understand: Southeast Asia, a bit of Korea, a bit of Australia as well. Now, I wanted to move on to the next slide, which is really getting a bit of context on the landscape, right? Very top line, basic numbers to better understand where we stand as marketers, where we stand as agencies and as brands in this thriving and growing influencer marketing ecosystem, right? It's quite evident, as you can see in the numbers here, that influence can really no longer be neglected nor underutilized in any brand's marketing strategy today. It's become a medium of choice to reach your target audience and your target customers, as clearly reflected in the growth of the market size year on year, as shown here at $21.1 billion today, right? Huge. 67% of brands are planning to increase their influencer marketing budgets in the next 12 months. This shows a clear and growing interest to leverage influencers more efficiently. We've been seeing the same type of voice and feedback from our partners. And the purpose of today is really to discuss some of the ways that you guys or us together can do so effectively to really leverage influencer marketing as it evolves very, very rapidly. Okay. Next slide here is really to touch on short form content. This has really been the format of choice that's been the most performing format over the past few years with the emergence of IG Reels, which everyone is familiar with, TikTok videos, and YouTube Shorts. Instagram remains king here. As closely illustrated in the poll that we carried out earlier on. I think the majority of you are still choosing Instagram as the platform of choice, but the blisteringly rapid growth of TikTok is not to be overlooked. We're seeing a growing amount of brands looking to allocate equally between both, if not even more, towards TikTok next year. We at Narrators spend a lot of time staying up to speed with TikTok as one of their agency partners here based in Singapore. And we definitely recommend presence across as many platforms as possible. But specifically TikTok, in the next coming 2-3 years, it is taking a growing place in the strategy of a lot of brands. The viewership, the reach, the traffic, and the numbers that we are seeing are quite exponential. And so it's very important for us together to understand how to effectively participate on TikTok as a brand, but also as an agency advising brands. Okay. The power of cross-posting is something that we're seeing grow more and more as well, right? A healthy presence and use of all three platforms for you to repurpose your videos and your contents to be cross-posted on all three main ones at least, is always essential. All right. I'll just stop here and give a quick pause to remind everyone that we'll be hosting a Q&A at the end of the session. So if you guys gather any questions, anything you want to ask, anything you want to dive into a bit deeper, please keep these questions on hand. And at the end of the session, we'll have a webinar where we'll take all your questions and hopefully be able to answer all of them. Okay, moving on to authenticity. This is a slide that I find extremely important. The word authenticity, I wanted to touch on. It is a word so often used and thrown around nowadays that it has almost become inauthentic, right? Certain brands not fully grasping what it really means and how to achieve it through creator content. Everyone wants authentic content, but how do we really achieve authenticity, right? It remains a real core foundation and a must-have for any content, any partnership, any collaboration with any influencer. And it is key for us to understand how to achieve authenticity, right? Partnerships are increasing in length and moving away from being transactional. What does this mean? This means that brands are engaging and forging meaningful relationships that extend beyond a one-off collaboration, right? This is something that creators love as well. Authenticity is really built on trust, okay? And the creators' trust with their audience is one of the things that you purchase from creators when you engage with them. That trust with their audience is not established overnight. And that applies for any product or brand message that they convey on your behalf, right? So we at Narrator spend a lot of time optimizing and working with our brands to build meaningful long-term programs, which we call ambassador programs, a term which I'm sure all of you are familiar with, but all of you might not have tested yet or might not have identified creators that can potentially be ambassadors for you. Okay. Integrating the product into daily routines, speaking about it regularly in an organic and relevant and credible way is the best way to introduce your brand, right, to the various audiences of these creators. This is more efficiently done with ambassadors over a long period of time, rather than just a one-off transactional type of collaboration. That's really the meaning of authenticity we're trying to convey here. So the avenue of long-term relationships is really something that we highly recommend, and we help a lot of our brands build to achieve really lasting trust, credibility, and advocacy with both your existing and your prospective customers and brand advocates. So I'll be touching a little bit more on that just a little later on. Okay. Next, I just wanted to touch a little bit on influencer tiers. There's always a different tiers, and often questions that come up to us are, what creators should I go with? What sizes of creators are the best? I have this much budget. What do you recommend? I think we're all familiar with what nano, micro, macro, mega creators are. Okay. I wanted to touch on micro influencers, which is one of the categories that we at Narrators execute the most of our campaigns with, and that have shown to bring the most efficiencies for 5 really succinct and key points that I'll be sharing here. Okay. First one is really cost effective. Rate cards with nano creators tend to be within the working range of most of brands' budgets, right? And we're often able, as agency partners, we're often able to negotiate on your behalf when we engage with micro creators. Something that is much more difficult to do with macro and mega creators, right? Which tend to be under management, which tend to be attached to an agency, and which tend to be a little bit more strict with the rate cards that they impose. So cost efficiency for any brand, for any marketer that is always within the chains of a budget framework they have to work with is obviously an important point. Okay, access to niche communities, creators in specific targeted segments tend to be harder to find in the macro and mega categories, where we noticed a bit more general and lifestyle profiles. That's how they grow their following, right? They create content that reflects and attracts a wider audience. So depending on your product and your brand or your target audience, niche communities entail a niche audience, which are most often, I guess, found within the nano and the micro communities, right? So you may need to focus on specific demographics. Micro creators tends to be the sweet spot to reach your target audience if you are a bit niche as a brand, okay? Strong audience connection. Although rising fast, micro creators are still able to interact and connect with their followers, right? Through their comments that they're able to reply to, through the DMs and through the interactions. They can keep a sense of connection better than the macros and the megas, purely because the followings are still in the realm of reasonable. The quantity of DMs and of comments that they receive on their content still allows them to interact. Once I'm a big celebrity, I can't reply to all the DMs. I can't reply to all the comments. I can't acknowledge and see all the interactions I'm having on my social. That's the main difference here, okay? Higher engagement rates. Micro category has shown to have one of the highest engagement rates in general throughout all the different tiers. High engagement rate is a prerequisite for all of you. Any of you engaging with influencers or looking to launch a campaign, have discussed internally or told your agency, I want creators with high engagement rates, right? Inevitable. So that's a prerequisite. Micro category also tends to be the sweet spot with a decent following and very high engagement rates for the reasons that I just shared above. And the last point is really the scalability for campaigns, right? Influencer marketing is a long-term game. You need to create a strategy that is scalable, right? And executing at scale tends to mean executing with more creators. And the micro category offers the best cost effectiveness and feasibility from our experience running thousands of campaigns to really optimize budgets and long-term collaborations. When you have a budget framework and you want to run a long-term program, you want to have an always-on strategy, and you want to run maybe regionally for some of you that manage other markets than the local markets where you sit, micro creators tend to have a cost efficiency where I'm able to work with a sufficient amount of them to be able to create as many UGCs as possible, to scatter a few headcounts in different regions, to rework with them, to engage them on a longer term. Macro and mega creators are great, but they tend to be very costly, and they therefore tend to reduce how many you can work with and how many pieces of content you can achieve. Nanos are the other way around. Micro, for the same reason, again, tends to be the sweet spot when you're looking to really take your influencer marketing to scale. That's a category that we heavily focus on at Narrators and recommend to a lot of our brands. Okay, moving on to the next slide, which is the funnel. I think everyone is familiar with this funnel. As a marketer, you've definitely seen this funnel before. As illustrated here, there's a journey that takes place in any engagement with creators. The benefits of adopting a longer-term outlook enables the creators and their content to achieve really different kinds of outcomes in the sales life cycle, right? Everyone wants conversions, okay? There is no brand that comes to us, or there is no brand that engages with the creators without at some point in that collaboration, whether short-term or long-term, expecting conversions and adoption of the product, right? What you need to understand from this funnel, which I think everyone is familiar with, awareness, consideration, purchase, adoption, advocacy, is really the difference between a one-off collaboration and one-off activation and a long-term activation. What's important to highlight here is really the difference, okay? Building the trust required to convert an audience member to a customer takes time, right? It's important, it's crucial, it's essential to understand that you must be patient and smart about it in order to build new lifelong customers and brand advocates, right? We're all under the burden of having to deliver, to show results, and we want everything now. We want everything within one post, but it's important to understand that significant results that really create an uplift in sales and conversions take time, right? So that's really the difference here, simplified with this funnel in a very simplistic way between some of the objectives that one-off activations can achieve and longer activations can achieve. Purchase, adoption, advocacy is the end goal of any marketing objective, and influencers can really help you get there efficiently if you give them the time to do so. Okay. Now, next part is really on a brief, right? A lot of you as marketers, as brand managers, as marketing managers, probably spend quite a bit of time working on a brief, right? What is a brief? What should be included inside? What qualifies a good or a bad brief? There are different ways to make a brief, obviously. Today, I wanted to share my personal and our recommendations at Narrators to create a brief that really makes the most sense for both you and the creator, and not a brief that is one-sided, right? So step one in the brief, I think this is really quite evident, but really making sure that creators understand who you are and what the product is and its key selling point, okay? If it has any story, if it has any specific benefits as to why this is better than another one in another product in the same vertical that you're competing with, this is all essential. Everything that creators need to know must appear in the brief. The better they understand your product, the better they're able to speak about it. Okay, so the introduction part of your brief is essential. Okay, we always recommend for the brief to be short and concise, right? Doubling down really on the essentials. Okay, so after the introduction, really the overview and objectives are key. Campaign objective, key message, content directions, campaign type, target audience, detailed timeline, right? Stay concise, stay clear. Influencers don't have the time to read pages and pages and pages, right? They join a campaign because they like your brand, because they want to engage with you. Keep their attention, keep them excited to work with you. Okay. One of the things that we see that both us and creators do not recommend are really briefs that are too long, that try to say too much, that try to convey too much content, too much messaging in a short form content, right? As we discussed earlier on, short form content is key. And when in today's world, the attention span of social media users is becoming smaller and smaller, we need to make sure that we focus on really the key message or the call to action, specifically when we're working with creators on short form content. Okay. Most importantly, in the next slide, I wanted to touch on the deliverables and the content guidelines. Okay, and this is where different agencies and different brands will come with different levels of hand-holding, right? Deliverables are mandatories and they're essential to your brand, right? To your campaign, and they must be clearly outlined and obviously not overlooked, right? But when it comes to content guidelines, I just want to go back to the word authentic here. You see, I'm using the word authentic again. Everyone uses the word authentic all the time. But it's important to really drill down and understand that the word authentic, again, here, when it comes to the deliverables and the brief and the direction in a brief, it's important to really not steer away too far from the creator's usual style, right? Many brands, in our experience, make the mistake to want to dictate every little piece of detail, including word by word, the caption, what I want him to say, okay? Of course, that comes from a good intention. That comes from wanting to really deliver a piece of content that, from the brand's perspective, is meaningful and will convey the message. However, in these deliverables and in this brief at large, it's always recommended for creators to receive guidelines and references that worked previously in other collabs. Do's and don'ts are obviously important. But not an instruction manual, okay? Show them the way, but don't hold their hand, is something that I repeat often, that I hope resonates with you guys as well, right? Creative freedom is essential for their audiences not to perceive the content as sponsored, and for the message to be relayed in a credible manner and in the style of the creator, okay? If something is very far off from the usual tone and style of the creator, performance of the content has shown to be mediocre, Okay, we have case study and case study and case study that illustrates this. So this really comes from learnings and recommendations as an agency managing creators and how we recommend to adopt your brief. Okay, creative freedom is essential. All right, campaign performance, right? This next topic is really essential to distill. All of us have different campaign objectives as we launch a campaign, right? Um, why am I launching this campaign? What is my end goal? What is my objective? Okay, so these are called KPIs, which of course everyone here is familiar with. We often follow the SMART goals framework, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based. These are 5 simple keywords that can really help you steer in a simplistic and effective way when establishing your KPIs. Okay. Um, whether you're managing this in-house and you need to establish KPIs internally, or whether you're managing this through an agency, it's always important to establish these ahead of time so as to not move the goalpost during the campaign. Okay. Common influencer marketing KPIs, reach, impressions, engagements, engagement rates, and click-through rates tend to be the most common ones that we look out for. Okay. We at Narrators automate some of these essential content performances in real time on your dashboard, which I'll touch a little bit in more detail on later on. Reporting and data collection is a recurring pain point for a lot of you, I'm sure, and something that we solve quite efficiently, including a very comprehensive post-campaign report, which as part of analyzing a campaign performance is also essential, right? Now, for any campaign, distilling and analyzing the campaign to draw its key takeaways is essential and is often overlooked. Okay. In fact, I would argue that the most important part of the campaign is the post-campaign discussion, right? Learnings, recommendations. More important than the campaign itself, more important than the KPIs that were set across initially, right? So in the case of narrators, we provide quite a comprehensive wrap-up report to really summarize your campaign's performance versus the KPIs that we've established, identify top performers, top contents, and the reasons that we think, for the strong performance, which is sometimes difficult to do internally without the right tools, without the right data to draw these conclusions. Okay. Learnings, challenges, and recommendations are always essential. We've shared here just a sample slide of a wrap-up report that we provide at the end of the campaign. Even internally, when you're executing your own campaigns, these are 3 essential things that are always essential and crucial to really drill down on, spend the time to analyze. Why did this go well? Why did this go not so well? How do we improve in the future? Okay. You'll hear me say this often if you know me and if you get to know me. Influencer marketing is a long-term game. Okay. One story, one campaign, one post will not move the needle, right? It's about consistency. Okay. And consistency means really distilling each campaign one after the other and getting better over time. Okay. It's just like push-ups, right? The more push-ups you do, the better push-ups you're able to do over time. I used to do 10. I kept going, and now I can do 100. Okay. Effectiveness of influencer carb campaigns sort of works in the same way. Okay. Top performers to re-engage. Again, this is also something that's essential in today's world where influencers are abundant, where we're consuming content at a pace like never before. Once you've identified a creator that really creates the content the way you want it to be, that's delivered the KPIs that you're looking for, and that really matches your brand, it's very important to identify that performer, right? For ambassador programs, to re-engage with them, right? I'll touch on that a little bit later on, but I think you know where I'm going with that. We automate that all on our dashboard and on our platform as well to make that effortless for you, because that's really essential. Okay. Just wanted to share a little case study here to exemplify some of the scale, some of the regional execution that we're able to carry out with one of our brands, which was Optimum Nutrition. There's a lot of hot bodies in these pictures, so don't be alarmed. We carried out this campaign in Singapore, Malaysia, and Philippines, and Indonesia. And we like to bring this up regularly when we speak with with brands and agencies on webinars such as these to really illustrate the kind of scale and efficiencies that one agency, one platform, and one unified reporting can really bring. When you talk about wanting an uptick in sales, an uptick in followers, an uptick in traffic, this is a great case study, which you can find a little bit more details on our website, with much more detailed breakdowns on what was carried out, some testimonies, some testimonials from our creators as well. 5 markets, 65 ambassadors, almost 1,300 posts, 62 million reach, and 3 engagements. Okay, we carried this out at Narrators. All this is unified on one dashboard. So for any of you that handle markets other than the one that you are present in, any of you handle regionally, please come and talk to us, right? We'll be happy to help you replicate such success and such scale. Some best practices for long-term collaborations, right? You'll hear me insist a lot on long-term collaborations, long-term views, long-term approaches, mainly because this is where at Narrators we are structured to really provide an edge on, right? Although we carry out multiple one-off collaborations, multiple monthly campaigns, we've really learned through case study after case study that the longer approach you take, the better results you will achieve, right? So understanding the best practices, if it's your first ambassador program that you're currently running, or if you're looking to run one, coming in with the right approach is essential. So I'm just going to share some of the key best practices that we've learned along the way that we advise our brands. Okay. Firstly, identify top performers from past campaigns. I've mentioned this earlier on, right? Highlighting who performed well, considering them for either a second campaign to revalidate that they're really the ones for you, that they've delivered content, that they have affinity with the brand is essential. But often when we run an initial pilot with our brands, top performers really serve as potential candidates for ambassador programs. That's one simple way to identify them. Okay. Second, best practice, right? What is an ambassador? Ambassador is more than just a creator who's going to post for you over a long period of time, excuse me, right? Ambassadors want to feel part of the team. They want to stay excited. They want more things to talk about than the product that you put in their hands, right? So typically ambassador program and any long-term relationship with a creator tends to entail some other perks and fun things as part of the collaboration and as part of the partnership, right? Some examples I've listed here is exclusive event invitations, product samplings, right? Speaking at webinars such as these, meeting the founders, activities with other ambassadors, and of course, remuneration plans throughout the long-term partnership. This really keeps the creator loyal and excited about the brand, okay? And I think this is often overlooked by a lot of brands who really want to take on long-term ambassadors, but forget that you need to keep them stimulated. You need to keep them exciting for that quality of content to stay vibrant, right? It's not just about the product. You're a brand ambassador, not a product ambassador. So distinguishing these by allowing a plethora of other perks as part of the collaboration is essential, and something to really keep in mind when you're considering these types of relationships. Okay. This will really allow you to have a genuine and relevant message through the voice of these creators, right? Rather than very focused on just the product. Okay. The longer they have to integrate the product into their lifestyles, the better the message is received by the audience. Okay. Everything comes together. Last point for this first part is really listen to them. Okay. This is something we also advocate for very, very, very strongly. Being positioned in between the brand and the creators, serving the needs of the brands, but also the creators, is really to listen to your creators, okay? Their recommendations, their feedback, their suggestions are more important than you know, okay? And this is something that really we tend to really overlook. We tend to come and slap a brief on the creator and say, okay, create the content, right? But we forget that no one knows how to address the audiences of these creators better than the creators themselves. Sometimes a brief can entirely come from a creator if you really listen to him, right? So there's different ways to approach this. Typically, we like to advise a few options of content direction so that the creators find a brief that is more suitable to them, that is more relevant to them. Okay, or even in such instances, ask the creators, look, this is the opportunity that we're giving you. This is the key message that we need to convey. What do you recommend? How do you feel you can integrate this product and speak about it to your community? Okay, so really listening to creators is essential. Keep that in mind, keep that in mind, keep that in mind. Okay. 1 year ambassador program plus quarterly campaigns is the example that I've just illustrated with this brand here, Glanbia. This is what we carried out last year and tends to be a really good formula when you want to engage on a 1 year, a very succinct 12-month program. Okay. 1 year ambassador program with ambassadors, same creators creating content monthly, as well as quarterly campaigns. So in this example, we did a 12-month ambassador program and we did Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 campaigns in parallel. All right. The parallel quarterly campaigns had a change in products, had a very different approach to the ambassador program. And that really allows any brand to really have a sustained presence on social and an always-on strategy that is effective, right? So what you achieve when doing so, obviously maximize reach and engagements cost efficiently. Why cost efficiently, right? Long-term partnership equals better rates, okay? At the end of the day, you guys are managing budgets. What you're looking for is always cost efficiencies, okay? So on the long run, when I'm negotiating on your behalf 12 reels throughout the year rather than one, my cost per reel is going to go down. So if you have the flexibility and the availability to really take a long-term approach to managing and deploying your influencer marketing budgets, we will always recommend it, okay? By also working with a partner such as us, as some of you I saw in your poll questions already engage with agencies, we also as a partner tend to be able to provide attractive proposals as well for the loyalty, right? If you work with one agency in 5 markets or one agency to do your ambassador program, even in one market, and your quarterly programs, we'll be able to offer you more competitive rates than if you jump from agency to agency. Okay, that way we also get to learn each other ways, how you like things, how we like things, and to better cultivate a relationship that delivers better results over the long run. All our partners and brands that we've been working with for the longest period of time are the ones that are really delivering the most meaningful results. Okay. Point number 2, plan and deploy seasonal activations and product launches. I think I just touched on this earlier on. Plan ahead of time, okay? All of you have different products that are coming out, different periods, different promotional, 10/10, 11/11s, our anniversary, Chinese New Year. There's different, seasonal activations wrapped around your different product activations. Plan these ahead of time. Don't plan these last minute. That'll really allow you to prepare and plan your influencer marketing plans and budgets more efficiently, okay? Cultivate constant loyalty and trust amongst your target audience. That really goes without saying. That's what you achieve when you have a creator talking about a content, about a product last month, the month before, in 3 months, in 4 months, right? I didn't change product. I'm still using it. It must really work, okay? That's how you gain credibility, by re-exposing the audience to the message, to the unique selling point, and to the product regularly. I just attended 2 days ago a very interesting not a webinar, sorry, a TikTok conference, sorry, can't find my words. And one of the interesting takeaways for me in the numbers that some of the TikTok team shared was the amount of content that an average relationship with a creator needs to produce to really display a tangible uptick in sales and in traffic, right? And the number was 8 to 10, right? These are numbers coming from TikTok, right? 8 to 10 contents, at least from a creator in a collaboration, to really lead to any succinct or tangible or noticeable uplift in traffic, right? So that really was very interesting for me and really goes in line with what we advocate for with long-term programs here. Okay, global plus local relevant content in one program and one budget. All right. Some of you, again, I'd really love to speak with you after this and in the coming weeks. For any of you that have any regional activations, keeping local relevance is essential. Sometimes we receive instructions from HQ, from the regional team, but localizing it is really essential to make sure that it is culturally relevant. So that's something to keep in mind as well, right? And the other benefit of these quarterly campaigns in parallel to the ambassador program is it allows you to identify potential next ambassadors, right? Optimizing influencer campaigns along the way is essential. Part of that optimization with ambassador programs is keeping the ones that are performing the best and maybe replacing the ones that are not performing up to par or whose performance drop off, right? To do that, they need to be replaced with new suitable candidates, okay? And that's where quarterly campaigns can help us in parallel identify top performers and ones to keep on our radar to potentially consider for ambassadors in the future. Moving on, another case study that I'd like to share with you guys today was with Narciso Rodriguez, just another exemplification of an execution in 7 key Asian markets, a close partner of ours, where we carried out last year in Malaysia, Australia, Hong Kong, Thailand, Taiwan, South Korea, and Vietnam, delivering 290 posts, 20.5 million reach, and 1.7 million engagements. All right. Some overall best practices I'd like to also touch on at large, right? If there's a few takeaways and a few essential checklists for any influencer campaign, these would be some of the ones that I recommend. All right. Identify clear goals, right? I touched on this earlier on, but I must really emphasize it, right? Do not move the goalposts once the campaign has launched. Identify your objectives, be very concise and clear, and prioritize. You will not be able to achieve brand awareness and traffic and a ton of UGC library growing and also engagements and also footfall, right? You need to select 1 or 2 key objectives that you're really going for and stick with it and make sure that your brief and your content direction is in line with those objectives. Okay, be reasonable with your expectations as well. Okay, listen to your existing customers. This is something that maybe requires a little bit more effort and a little bit more work and a little bit more internal resources. But sometimes looking at your existing customers and seeing what they're saying, what they're asking, and if a larger campaign can be built around it is important. What does that mean? All of you as brand managers or marketing managers or heads of digital have social media accounts that you manage for your brands, right? Have you ever stopped to look and see what comments are my customers placing on the posts that I'm making? What questions am I being asked, right? What feedbacks am I receiving via email? What would they like to see? What do they don't want to see as much? What could we improve on, right? So I think analyzing these social channels can sometimes give you material for a brief or for an activation coming directly from your customers, right? So that's an interesting one that is, also a bit underlooked and that we always recommend looking into. Align on a consistent look and feel, content directions, but keep it brief and leave the creators sufficient creative freedom. Creative freedom is another keyword that I'd like you to take home today because everyone thinks they understand it. Everyone thinks, they already are, but really we notice that brands are not giving creators enough, creative freedom, right? Seek advice from your creators, but give them enough creative freedom, right? Again, if you have one sentence to take away from this webinar, from me at least, it is show them the way, but don't hold their hand, okay? Point number 4, listen to your creators' opinions, feedbacks, and recommendations, okay? Seeking advice from creators is something that we feel could be, tagged onto and amplified with a lot of brands. We tend to often, as I mentioned earlier on, just slap a brief on them and say, where's my content, right? When really we should be taking more time to listen to them and letting them build their own relevant content directions, right? Contents are not a one-size-fits all. Every creator has his own style. Every creator has his own audience. Every creator has his own twist of comedy or a family or I'm in a couple or I live here, I live there. There's different ways to speak to audiences, right? Contents are not a one-size-fits-all. So listening to your creators to be able to reach the right attitude and the right strategy and the right approach and the right message to make it relevant for each of the different creators and their audiences is essential. Okay. Point number 5, amplify, cross-post, and repurpose content across multiple channels. This is also a no-brainer that as a brand, you should be requesting from your creators, right? To get more reach and more presence across platforms. Cross-posting an IG reel to a TikTok video is effortless and very simple, and even to YouTube Shorts, if possible, if that creator has a YouTube channel as well. So when you reach out to your agencies or when you collaborate internally and carry out your campaigns with creators, don't hesitate to ask a cross post, right? It's often easy to get that from creators as it doesn't require any additional creatives, right? And it does amplify reach quite significantly. So that's always something that we recommend to weave in to any collaboration with creators, okay? Ensure balance between global consistency and local relevance, okay? For those of you here who are part of local brands, global brands, excuse me, who work with regional teams or even look after more than one market, it's really essential to ensure a consistency, obviously, in the approach of your content, whilst really keeping the content localized and locally relevant, right? Something that I post and published and a content direction I have in Singapore may not be as well understood in Indonesia, right, or in Philippines. So if you're in the local markets, you know, you may receive regional directions or briefing elements that need to be culturally relevant. So for you guys, you know, sitting in the local markets, we definitely recommend making sure that it is culturally and locally relevant, right? So as to not confuse audiences and so as to keep the engagement that you had established in your KPIs and not receive mixed feedback and mixed reviews from the audiences. Okay. Last point, and arguably one of the most important ones as well, although there are many different important ones, is really test and learn. All right. A and B testing is one of the most common approaches in marketing, right? This applies equally to influencer marketing, right? You're never going to get it right the first time. The first ambassador that you engage is not going to be the one that's going to deliver the best results. Your first campaign is not always going to be the most successful one. So don't be afraid to try new ideas and initiatives, right? You never know what's going to stick. You never know what the next trend is going to be. You never know which piece of content is going to go viral for absolutely no reason, but not a reason that you had anticipated, right? We've seen this with TikTok, right? We've seen some brands, you know, be okay with something that's a little bit off brief, that's a little very specific to the creator himself, and the content blows up, and he gets, you know, 1,000% engagement rates, right? When you do find the winning formula, however, build around it, strengthen it, and make sure that you keep that as a spearhead for all the creators that you work with. All right. Those are my overall best practices, my and narrator's overall best practices. Brand ambassadors, just want to leave you with some key numbers, which are arisen from the State of Influencer Marketing 2022. 93% of creators want to be ambassadors for their favorite brands, right? I love Nike shoes. I want to be an ambassador for Nike, right? I love playing tennis. I want to be an ambassador for Babolat, right? This is also reflected in the relationships that we have with creators, right? So I'm really hitting the hammer on the head here as to when you reach and find creators that you've really enjoyed collaborating with, to the limit of what's possible, try to engage with them again, at least once, at least twice. They will deliver more time and cost-effective results, and they want to work with you, okay? The ones that really have an affinity for you want to work with you. 73% of marketers already have a brand ambassador program or plan to launch one in the future. This was also interesting for me to see and to discover when I read this first report last year. It seems that this is already an approach that a lot of brands are adopting, right? And there's a reason for it, right? So if you haven't yet, launch your first ambassador program, and we can definitely help you do that effectively. Quick chart here over long-term and short-term partnerships, right? As I said, influencer marketing is a long-term game. You want to have a constant flow of content and touch points with your customers, with your audience, right? Short-term campaigns are great. They achieve short-term objectives. Long-term campaigns really lead to strengthened messaging, engagements, and really build trust with their audience, right? I need to see you come up in my feed regularly. I need to keep trying. I need to keep wanting to find out more. I need to be intrigued. If I see your brand once through a post from your creator and I never see you again, that's going to have limited results. Okay. Key benefits of brand ambassadors. Again, these are some that you may not be aware of. These are specific benefits that we help negotiate in the terms and in the contracts that we negotiate with creators, right? Exclusivity, right? Some of you may belong in verticals that are very competitive. Okay, we see this with the baby formula, where mothers in a very small market like Singapore, right, with kids 2 to 4 years old, that all the child formula brands are fighting after. Very difficult, right? So when you find someone that you really enjoy working with that has delivered results, ambassador programs helps you make them exclusive and not work with your competitors. Okay, secure best inventory, right? Long-term partnerships means securing best influencers for your brand and vertical. You do not want that creator to go and work with your competitor. Makes sense, right? You want him to stay with you. You want him to keep creating content for you. And he's already brought your product up. His audience is familiar with your product. Let's keep it that way, right? Better rates, I mentioned this as well. Cost efficiencies are something that everyone is looking for. Everyone is under budget frameworks. Everyone is under budget restraints. How do we best optimize these on the long run? Rather than reaching out to us when you have a budget, we always recommend, when possible, to try and get yearly budgets and allocate those throughout the year with creators and long-term partnerships. 12 reels, 10 reels, 10 TikTok videos leads to a cheaper cost per video than one TikTok video. Okay, so cost efficiencies will always be observed when adopting a long-term approach. Advocacy and earned media value is also something that you achieve from working with ambassadors, right? Generally, they have deliverables and prerequisites, which entail this many contents per month, right? Mandatories of this many contents per quarter. But what we've noticed is what we call earned media value, which is they post more than they are contractually supposed to, okay? They really love the brand. If not, they wouldn't be an ambassador for you. That leads to me talking about it a little bit more, posting another story here and there, word of mouth, right? You really become part of the team. And when you become part of the team, the way you express the brand message becomes even more organic than if it was just a one-off sponsored collaboration, right? So earned media value is something that, as a proportion of yearly KPIs that are established in brand ambassador programs, can be a consider. You see, this is the problem when you're French and your English is not so great. A significant amount of additional reach engagements to your yearly KPI. Excuse me. Okay, Narrator's platform. I would really like to take the opportunity in the future to show you guys our platform, the automation that we bring, the tools that you have access to when you launch a campaign with us. It is super straightforward. It is also super effective, super user-friendly, and is geared towards long-term campaigns, A and B testing, real-time reporting, and more specifically, ambassador programs. My email will be at the end of this presentation. Please don't hesitate to reach out for a one-on-one demo with me or someone from my team. I think for those of you that have never discovered it, you'll find a lot of efficiencies by working there. Okay. Just to finish on narrators and what we do, a lot of what I've discussed today are some pain points that a lot of brands have, to which we bring the solutions through our expertise, but also through our platform. We are supported by a team of experts in the sense that you have a dedicated account manager when you run a campaign with us. You're not left to feed for yourself on the dashboard, right? We have a local account manager in each of the markets that we operate in to be able to assist the recruitment, the negotiation, the legal contracting with all the creators so that you don't have to deal with them, right? Creators can be very difficult to deal with, as some of you may know. We take all that pain point away from you. We have a large community, we have a large database, and we have a large pool of active creators in the Narrators mobile app that we can tap into for you guys. All the contents are managed on the platform, right? Very efficient. You don't have to go to a Google Deck, or you don't have to go to an Excel sheet. Content's right on the platform for you to moderate together with us. Brand ambassador programs, I've touched on those at length today. I'd love to have more in-depth discussions with some of you on how we can potentially leverage ambassadors. Maybe if you're looking into your plans for next year, right? We're in Q4 23. Maybe now's a good time to look into it. Okay. Influencer payment and legal compliance. We handle all the contracting, all the legal framework, and all the payments for creators so that you don't have to deal with it. Okay. And real-time analytics and reporting. This is also where we really stand out next to our peers and other agencies, is really real-time reporting, in the sense that contents that go live are reported immediately on the dashboard. You don't get everything only at the end of the campaign after the fact. You get results of contents on the way so that you can pause, resume, right? And this goes back to the A and B testing that I mentioned earlier on. You need real-time reporting to understand how your campaign is going, specifically for longer-term campaigns of 12 or 24-month duration and ambassador programs. All these are integrated in our all-in-one solution at Narrators, which I hope some of you will be able to discover in more detail in the coming weeks.